Hey everyone, welcome back to this Monday afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern Live. Thank you so much for tuning in to I'm Silent No More. I'm your host, Lynz Piper-Loomis. Today I have a special guest, friend and colleague in the American Patriot Movement. But before I do that, as you guys know, last week we actually had a significant breaking news, which we already knew for those of us who are, you know, aware of what's going on in the world. I want to quote Carrie Lake. She said on January, no, let's just get this right. September 26th, 1:46 a.m. They stage a riot on January 6th to frame patriotic Americans and cover up a stolen election. Justice is coming. Just the News actually released an article, and Trump shared this. FBI bombshell. 274 agents, and that's, there's some different calculations, but this particular article by, I think it's John Solomon, 274 agents sent to Capitol for J6. Many later complained they were political pawns. This is a huge deal. And I guess Stephen Richards also wrote this article. So the reason why I'm starting out with the J6 situation is because David Johnston, who is actually running for my district, State House District 98 in South Carolina, is a J6er. And the government was weaponized against him unlawfully, and he paid a hefty price as well as his family. Eventually, after losing his law license, he was pardoned by Presidential Trump, but not before he had to make some hard decisions. But guess what? When President Trump pardoned him, his law license was actually restored. It took some time. So he is small business America. The bread and butter of our economy is the small business. But not only that, he is a Christian man first. He loves the Lord, has a beautiful family, and something that I can speak about that he can't speak about, because it's my opinion. I'm just going to say this. There was actually a narrative going around in the local area, and I actually spoke to this person ahead of time, and I said, don't post this, don't go that route, because we had other J6ers like Ashley Babbitt, who was murdered in cold blood. We had people like Matthew Perna, who committed suicide, and there's still justice that has not been served for all the J6ers. But this particular narrative went out, it was removed. There's an entire Facebook post, and I can actually show you the screenshot here. I'm just showing this to you. But it says, meanwhile, another candidate pled guilty for his role in January 6th as he entered the Capitol knowingly and only avoided serious consequences because he received a presidential pardon. That's a privilege ordinary citizens like us would never get. To call that petty is flat out misleading. It was not petty. It was serious. And I might lose a friendship over this. But for me, truth is greater than anything. And look, I'm going to just tell you that David has no say in what I'm saying right now. This is my opinion. I spoke to her ahead of time and I said, don't do this, because these people, the government was weaponized against them. This is not a narrative you want to take. Eventually, there was so much pushback from the local community that the post was taken down. And, look, I've been friends with this individual. We took, with her and, Fitz News, Chris Murphy ended up resigning from this seat. It was very corrupt. So we don't want to start off on the wrong foot. There was this narrative that David is not a small business person. He doesn't appreciate small business. He's a corrupt politician, and that he is a lawyer legislator. He just got his law license back. But I have actually had him speak to multiple people who he has not even charged, just to help them out of the goodness of his heart. And not only that, but he's never been a politician, and he's not corrupt. So this is my personal opinion. I've already put my endorsement behind him. Our community, by the numbers, are flocking to his campaign because they are ready for someone who stood up against the government, to stand up for them and to bring the government back to the hands of the people. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to David Johnston, dear friend. Hey, David, welcome.
Hey, Lindsay, how you doing?
Good. I'm so glad you are here today. I know we've been talking a lot almost every day. I'm doing everything I can to make sure you get in office. And
Thank you. And thank you for your help, Lynz. I appreciate it.
yeah, you need to be in there. I'm so excited. But anyways, who is David Johnston? I know you tell people this when you knock on the doors. But
First,
tell us who David Johnston is.
I knock on the door, and the very first thing I say is, what you need to know about me is that I follow and worship the Lord Jesus Christ, him and no other, period, end of story. That's not for negotiation. Very often, that's the point in which my conversation at the door will end. But very often, it ends positively. That I've had people say, "Tell me about yourself," and I tell them, "I worship the Lord Jesus Christ," and they go, "You've got my vote. You've got my family's vote. Get out of here. Go campaign some more. We want you to win." And it wouldn't matter if they said something different. This is who I am. This is what I'm going to do. Second thing to know about me, I have a great plan to fix the roads. The roads are a mess. Everybody knows it. There are 4 contractors in our state that are basically able to qualify for these state's roads contracts generally. That needs to be expanded. The regulations could be loosened. Particularly, let smaller contractors do smaller stretches of roads. We have 40,000 miles of road. About 15,000 of those are stretches of less than 1/2 mile. Let a smaller contractor do a smaller stretch. Release the regulations, loosen the regulations so that new blood can get in the game. What would that do? That's going to make the big contractors stand up and pay attention. They don't want the competition. That's my determination. Fix these roads. My passion is education. I would like to see in our high schools woven into the curriculum a pathway to diploma plus credential, electrical contractor, plumbing, HVAC, physician's assistant, registered nurse, radiology tech, any of the med techs, all of that. We could introduce them to that in the high schools. And then the ones that took an interest in it could say, yeah, I want to go that way. And they could work in that field and simultaneously get their diploma. My son will pick up his associates in science, college associates in science, in pre-med and his diploma on the same day. And we can do that for all kinds of things and make South Carolina like the work your way to prosperity destination. We could attract people to our state with something like this, and maybe our kids would get off of their cell phones, and pay attention and work toward having a good life. I was out knocking doors yesterday. I met a young Gen Zer. I love Gen Z. If you're Gen Z, you're looking at me, you're saying, who's this old guy? This old guy loves you. And I was talking to this Gen Zer, and he's looking down his nose at me very skeptically. Who's this old silver-haired politician in my driveway? And I was like, okay, I'm not a politician. I wish I was. I'd probably be better at this. But I said, and I told him about my plans for his future, for a way for him to improve himself. His eyes lit up. I mean, he warmed to that idea. He warmed to the idea. Imagine that we can do something to help our kids get ahead in life. And it doesn't even take that much work. The Department of Education is basically being dismantled today. South Carolina, this is our chance. Let's do something with our schools, not only to compete with other states. Let's make South Carolina the envy of the country. Let's go for it. Let's make things happen. That's some of the things I stand for. You mentioned January 6th. I mean, I'm willing to talk about January 6th. I am a Jan 6er.
Well,
I know.
let me back you up for just one second, because I also want to cover the fact that we've talked a lot about you being constitutional. I mean, as an attorney, you have to know not just the national constitution, but the state constitution. And so I know, like, on your website, you cover the infrastructure, you cover the roads, you cover education, you cover, and you're a small business yourself. You work in your own private practice now.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I am fully reinstated, and I am in private practice as an attorney in South Carolina. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to take a brief moment, and your website, which I can actually put up, guys. I'm sorry that I didn't. I should have done better. But your website is DIST 98. Is it DIST98.com?
Yes, ma'am. DIST98.com is abbreviation for District 98. My brilliant webpage guy got that domain for me. So it's DIST98.com.
There we go. We got it up there, guys. So as you're talking, you can go through this. I really just wanted to help David tell his story. Just want to take a pause right there for a second. I also I want to come back to a case. I want to talk about our children a little bit more, but I really do want you to talk about J6. So go ahead and tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I am a J6er. I was in the Capitol on January 6th. I went to protest and rally. That's all I went to do. There was never a single allegation from anyone at any time that I was violent, that I broke anything, that I stole anything. There was not even an allegation that I disobeyed an order from a Capitol policeman. The one Capitol policeman that told me, I want you to not go that way, go this way. I was on my way out and he said, no, go this way. I said, yes, sir. Shook hands with him, thanked him for his service. What happened on January 6th is something that's going to be talked about for years. We have seen the story this morning, 274 FBI agents in plain clothes in the crowd on January 6th. I think obviously that will cut across, how people perceive what happened on January 6th. I went through an open door with Capitol policemen looking on. There was a plainclothes guy inside the door waving people in, saying, come on, come on, come on. Trump had said during his speech, and I stayed for the whole speech, Trump had said during his speech, I'm going to go down to the Capitol. My friend and I were like, well, I wonder if he's in there. I wonder if something like this is happening. So that's when we went inside to see if Trump might be in there. We also came to protest, and it seemed to me to be changing into an Occupy style protest. And we came to protest. We came to protest what we saw as election irregularities that should have been addressed in our courts and not dismissed on standing grounds and these kinds of things. So yeah, I went there about a year and a half after Jan 6. I was arrested at the Target on Rivers Avenue. I was on my way to work. I was working at a high-profile law firm right down the street from there at the time. I was on my way to work. I was arrested, swarmed by about two dozen agents, I would guess, pretty decked out. And they shackled me, ankle and wrist, put me in a car, whisked me downtown. The warrant that they presented me in that moment with all of these agents and all of this local law enforcement backup, the warrant they presented me listed 4 misdemeanors, 2 misdemeanors, 2 petty offenses. These days that distinguishes Class A misdemeanor, or good old-fashioned misdemeanors that we're all familiar with. Class B misdemeanors are what we used to call petty offenses. I thought at the time, and I think even some of the agents and some of the federal marshals at the time were looking at the warrant saying, like, all this for 4 misdemeanors? Does this really make sense? Be that as it may, I eventually, I never lied to the DOJ. I never made any kind of statements to the contrary. I never made any excuses. I owned exactly what I did. And I was one of the few J6ers, I think, that actually got to plead to exactly what I did, which was demonstrating in the Capitol without a permit. And that's what I pled to. That the judge referred to it as a petty offense. That's the old designation for us old lawyers. And that was the offense. For that petty offense, no priors, attorney in good standing, ordained deacon of my church, married, father of 4, resident in the same location. I've been in the location in the Low Country for about 25 years. I've been here in my house in Somerville for about 17, 18 years. For all of that, I got 21 days in federal prison. I got 90 days of ankle monitored home confinement, about $3,000 in fines, and they put me on probation for 3 years. I believe that the judge in my case put me on probation because she knew me being on probation would make it difficult for me to get my law license back. My law license was interim suspended when I was arrested. Interim suspension means we're suspending you for now until we find out all the facts. It remained interim suspended, but it remained interim suspended during all those probation years. So it remained interim suspended for about 3 years. The Trump pardon came along in January of this year. The Trump pardon, of course, ended the probation. When the probation ended, then the South Carolina State Bar, which is the Supreme Court, in a per curiam decision, meaning a unanimous decision, voted for my law license to be fully reinstated. Now, they did that by making it a definite suspension of 6 months, starting from the date of the arrest, going 6 months. So that was retroactive. That was, think, credit for time served. So that resulted in me immediately getting my law license back after I did the required paperwork. And so that's what happened.
It's just horrible to think about how the government was weaponized against you. You know, this is just, and so many others. I met Jerry Perna, Matthew Perna's aunt, when I was at Mar-a-Lago. It's been over a year. I can't remember which time it was, but it just, I see her posts on X, and it just, the pain and the just the pain. I can't even fathom, you know.
It was rough. I'll tell you, Lynz, I came out better than most at 21 days incarceration. Now, they sent me to a low medium, FDC Miami. That came from somewhere up the chain. So I did not get to go to one of the camps and play bossy ball and enjoy the salad bar. I was actually in a low medium facility, FDC Miami. Interesting stories about that. If you've got time, I can tell you a little bit about that experience if you'd like to hear it. But
we've got time. Go ahead. I mean, this is what people need to hear. They need to hear why I'm supporting you, and why you're going to get elected. You know.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Well, I was sent down to FDC Miami. I walked in. The floors down there have about 124 guys on them. There's 2 to a cell. Sorry, I guess 124 guys, and there's 62 cells in 2 tiers, and then there's a big open area with some TVs. There's a balcony kind of area where you can go out and at least breathe like real air, and that's about it. And I walked onto the floor. I'm in there with people that have committed some serious crimes. I mean, there were drug smugglers, cartel hitmen in there. Bank robbers, people that had committed homicide. And I walk onto the floor, and, the Lord protected me. I walk onto that floor, and the biggest, meanest guy on the 3rd floor at FDC, former bank robber, took one look at me and decided he liked me and decided that I was his friend and he was going to protect me. And he protected me the whole time. So I was on that floor for about 2 weeks. Subsequently, I did a week. They moved me to the 6th floor, which was a more dangerous floor. I don't know why they did that. I do know that the order to do that came from what they call Grand Prairie, which is the main office of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I do know that the corrections officers down there were baffled that Grand Prairie that high up office would get involved in something as simple as a floor transfer. They were kind of surprised by that. But they put me on the 6th floor, got up the 6th floor, a worse group of people, deeper crimes, more serious crimes. The biggest, meanest guy on that whole unit took one look at me, decided he liked me, and decided he was going to protect me, and protected me the whole time. The Hispanics on both floors called me Patron because they thought the cartels were paying these guys to protect me. And this is the providence of God. This is the protection of the Lord God Almighty. I will always bear scars from what happened on January 6th. I have seen modern tyranny. I have seen the weaponization of government against American citizens, something I thought I would never live to see. And I've seen it, and I bear the scars of it. But I also bear the knowledge that God is with us. And it's time, the theme of my campaign is stand. I was speaking at the Oak Initiative a while back, and a bunch of J6ers were up there. So we just had a bunch of those same J6ers speak to a Dorchester County Republican Party event over at Logan's Roadhouse a couple of weeks ago. But I was waiting to speak, And everybody was up telling their story. And these stories are sad. When you talk about what happened to the Perna family, it's sad, it's tragic. And the other Jan 6ers were there prepared to tell their stories. And I was there, sitting there prepared to tell mine. And my gut was churning. And I prayed about it. And I said, I don't want to tell the sad story. I'm tired of telling the sad story. I want to do something. And as I prayed, I got one word. And that word was stand. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go say that word. And then I've just about got 1 Samuel 17 memorized, David and Goliath. I mean, who does? If you've ever taught Sunday school, you've taught David and Goliath. And so I quickly worked up a speech where I talked about David standing in the valley of Eli, having the courage to stand, even though Goliath, 40 days and 40 nights, telling him, you're all going to die. You're going to be our servants. We're going to win this thing. You're going to lose this thing. And David was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to stand anyway. I'm going to stand regardless of what happens. And, he stood in the valley of the shadow of death and stood his ground. And so I got up and gave that speech. I said, I don't want to talk about the sad J6 stuff. I like talking about the fact that God protected me, but I don't want to talk about the sad J6 stuff. I want to talk about standing. That really was a turning point. I'm going back to Oak Initiative here in early October to speak with them again, to thank them and to tell them that that was a moment of turning for me in that room. And okay, I promised myself I wasn't going to cry. All right. But I'm going to go back and talk to those guys, and I'm going to tell them that that was a turning point for me. So they swarm me at Oak Initiative. These guys are all like dedicated Christians. They swarm me, even better than the FBI, I thought, in terms of swarming capability. And they laid hands on, prayed, and they prayed out loud, and they raised their hands. I'm a Presbyterian, right? I'm a Reformed Presbyterian. We don't do that. But they did it. And I stood there and listened to them pray, and I kept hearing them over and over. I had merely mentioned that my law license was still suspended. Well, they picked up on that, and they didn't like it. So they were all praying, Lord, give him this law license back. Lord, speak into this situation. Bring this law license back to this man. He deserves. And I'm just listening to him pray, and I'm going, okay. And I tell you, by then I had given up. I just thought, I'm not going to get it back. I need to redefine my life. I was looking at other career options that I could do. I was even considering going into a trade myself. Maybe becoming an electrical contractor or a plumbing contractor or something. These are the things I was thinking about. And I was at peace with that. So they all prayed for me at the Oak Initiative. I come home, I'm driving along Dorchester Road. I get a call from a lawyer, and he says, you've been reinstated. And I was like, what? He said, you've been reinstated. And I was like, and I didn't even believe him. I just said, well, okay, man. Hey, thanks for the call. Got off the phone. 5 minutes later, Post and Courier calls and says, would you like to make a comment on the fact that you're being reinstated? Well, needless to say, the Post and Courier is not thrilled about me being reinstated. So I knew then that it must be real. And, I just gave them like a textbook quote and went about my business, came home, called up to Columbia. They was like, oh yeah, the per curiam decision. They sent it to me. I read it. And so that's that. So yeah, never, if you need something, you might want to speak to the Oak Initiative about praying for you. They seem to be pretty good at it, but at any rate, so that's my Jan 6 story. I'm not so much. I've talked more about Jan 6 with you right now than I've talked this whole campaign. I'm not. Jan 6 to me is just something that was very much overblown by our media and our government and this insurrection narrative. You notice even MSNBC and CNN are no longer calling it an insurrection. Even they can't support it. If you look at the stats, 418 of 1,575 arrested Jan 6ers were charged with any level of violence. Now, Charlie Kirk and his organization took that 418 people. That's 27%, by the way. For a while there, I was calling it the 27% insurrection. But Charlie Kirk and his organization took that 418 people and researched it, and they put the number at like 44. Like 44 people out of the entire 1,575 arrested actually engaged in laying hands on Capitol policemen, actual physical altercations with Capitol policemen. The rest of that 1,575 people, over 1,500 people, never committed any kind of violence. This is according to Charlie Kirk's organization. I've not had a chance to go research the 418 people that were charged with violence. I know that a lot of those were dropped and dismissed, and a lot of the mixed verdicts, even the DC juries would find them not guilty on the violence, but guilty on the trespass. So, and when I say trespass generally, so, this is what we're dealing with. But the media takes this 44 people with their flagpoles and the fighting and the yelling and all this kind of stuff and what was going on in the tunnel and plays it on this endless loop over and over to where the world thinks that, a couple of thousand people ran down there and battled with police and then went in the building. And another thing your listeners may not know, your viewers may not know, is that the fighting on the West Terrace started around 3 to 3:30. Thousands of people were in and out of the Capitol between 2:15 and 3 o'clock. Most of the people that went in the Capitol had no idea what happened on the West Terrace, much less participated in it. I did not see it. The DOJ alleged that I saw it and played that video loop at my sentencing to say, see this violence? He saw that and he went in anyway. And I was like, I didn't see it. And the judge said, yes, you did. And gave me 21 days. She might have given me more if she could have, or I think I did pretty well on the allocution, but Jan 6 is very much of setup. Now we're seeing today, John Solomon just released 274 plainclothes FBI agents in the crowd on Jan 6. That should tell everybody what's going on. I think that should begin to open more eyes as to what Jan 6 actually was.
Definitely. Yes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, take a quick break because I want to kind of shift some things and ask you some questions about, about the campaign and just some things that we're seeing in South Carolina. Because I know a lot of people are like, well, how would he do this? How would he do that? So I'm really excited. Y'all will be right back after this break. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Hi, everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this real quick break. I want to tell you about America's most secure mobile network. Now, I'm not going to tell you about something that I am not already using. Efani, EFANI.com/Lynz. And the reason why this is America's most secure mobile network is that the Efani Safe Plan actually offers a cybersecurity focused mobile service protecting. It says high risk individuals, but now my whole family is using this plan, and a lot of people near and dear to me, people joining, in support of this podcast and my investigative work. They're actually joining this because they realize that I am always looking at ways to protect not just my identity, but also protect things that matter most to me. So secure communication, whether it's through Signal or through email or pictures of my family. But what about crypto? Are you a crypto investor? What about your banking? What about the things that you do on a day-to-day basis? This plan, this safe plan, doesn't just protect high-risk individuals against mobile hacks, but Efani provides a best-in-class protection with 11 layers of proprietary authentication. And guess what? It's backed by a $5 million insurance policy. Now, I actually interviewed one of the individuals who had a SIM swap attack, and it's in my Rumble channel. You can go back and listen to him. His name is Mark. But this plan, protects executives from top organizations all the way to your average everyday American. And the reason that they created Efani was because the FBI reported just last year over 5.6 times more an increase in SIM swap scams. Over 80% of the attempts to get into a phone account are successful. Hackers can drain your bank account and take over your email and social media for extortion. Tens of thousands of people lose their life savings and reputation every day. So, this isn't just endorsed by me, but it's endorsed by others. So go to ifani.com/Lynz, type in my name, Lynz, and you'll get a discount, unlimited talk, text, and data. So thank you so much for helping support the work I'm doing, Ifani. God bless. Hey, y'all, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I know y'all just watched the ad regarding Ifani. I've had several people close to me and just different individuals talk to me about what Ifani is. And so I actually moved my entire family over. I know I just talked about this, but I want to say thank you to Ifani for allowing me to be a part of their affiliate program and to protect my SIM, protect the information on my phone. I appreciate the $5 million insurance policy that is attached to each line on my contract. So thank you so much for helping me support me where I've been canceled in many other places. Also, quick thank you to Ex American News and my producer, Michael. I'm so thankful that you guys took this podcast on and have given it the ability to get out there. I'm still being heavily censored on TikTok. We just started an account there and I'm fighting with multiple videos to get them back up as they're being taken down. And I'm still heavily censored on X. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate you. This is a big deal. So if you're interested in Ifani, you can go to ifani.com/Lynz, America's most secure mobile network. And you can choose to be on the AT&T or the Verizon towers. Thank you so much. So coming back into this discussion I'm having with David Johnston, running for South Carolina House District 98. Super excited. We're going to start digging into some more of what he stands for, this campaign. One thing I do want to say is, I shifted gears when I met him. It's been over a year now that I've been able to, become friends with him, get to know him. And, I did change my support for this seat for a number of reasons. I don't want to, I already know about my current state house rep and all of his failures, missing over 3,000 votes. But I don't want to hear about someone whining about a campaign, not raising money, someone that's not willing to do the work, making excuses and just angry and willing to just throw in the towel with the campaign when, get closer to things. And that was my previous experience. And I know that that's going to hit people the hard way. But David is not like this. David is humble. He's faithful, and he's exemplifies the model of Jesus Christ. So I'm going to bring him back up here. We're going to talk a little bit more. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wanted to kind of talk to you or dig in a little bit more about some of these bills that, our friend Jordan Pace, Representative Jordan Pace, he's brought forth. Excuse me, guys, I have had coffee. He brought forth a bill that would assess the death penalty to those who sexually assault a child, and it's ages, I think, 12 and under. This has already been done in Florida. Is this a bill that you would support at the State House?
Yes. I think, the people that do stuff like that, the rate of recidivism over the 20-year stretch is literally 100%. It is literally 100%. When they talk about, the rate of recidivism is 50% or 80% or 90%, it depends on how many years you go out. If you go over to the Trident School, where people are getting their master's in counseling, there's a professor over there that teaches about child abusers, child sexual abusers, pedophiles, predators of that nature, and what they're like. And he'll tell you the rate of recidivism is literally 100% within 20 years. A guy offends today, he's caught, he's released, he will reoffend within 21 years, assuming he lives that long. We can't have that. That's not that's not something that's okay. That's you just can't have it. It's a heinous crime. It needs to be treated as such. We need the deterrence. So yeah, I would support the death penalty. Anybody proven to commit a child sexual assault against a minor under the age of 12, I don't have a problem with it.
I would personally, this is me personally, I would raise the age up to 18. And I would also add into a bill um, children who are affected by special needs or mental health issues, autism. I was helping, and this is public knowledge, so it's already out there, but we had a young lady that went missing from one state to another. And she was sexually groomed as a minor by a 31-year-old. He waited until she was 18. He and his and some other people with him, his family members, came and picked her up and took her. And so there's also a sexual grooming bill that's being brought forward that a mom whose son was sexually groomed up in Illinois. It was first passed by an all by Democrat-led state, all blue state. So now it's passed in multiple states, and so this bill I know will be coming up. I think it's already been filed by South Carolina Representative April Cromer, but we've got a lot of support behind that. So
I'm not super familiar with the grooming bill, but something needs to be done. I don't know if I would go with you on the death penalty all the way up when the victims are between 12 and 18. I don't know if I would go that far, because you get some 17, 16, 15-year-olds, from my experience, that may be somewhat complicit to a degree, but it certainly is something that should be punished. It's certainly something for which there should be some serious penalties. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, so I know we've got some bills coming up, on that. And, we just saw RJ May pled guilty to 5 of the 10 charges filed against him for child sex abuse material. He's the former co-chair of the, Freedom Caucus.
Really disappointing.
Yeah. And, I wish they wouldn't have dropped the 5 of those charges. I know we were just talking on the break about, it could be up to 20 years per charge. For me personally, if you are looking at incest porn, we know that he was flying down to Colombia. I think it was Colombia to sleep with what they think are minors down there. He's looking at toddler porn, young porn. I would
really disappointing. And yeah, I think the mandatory minimum on the 5 charges to which he has now pled is 5 years apiece. So I think mandatory minimum, if they run consecutive, would be 25 years.
Yeah. I did say minimum 20. I meant maximum. It's a maximum of 20.
Five minimum, max 20. So and there's nothing that says the judge can't give him 20 each. In lawyer parlance, we call it boxcarring them when they run them consecutive. One sentence this sentence doesn't run until this one's finished, the next one doesn't run until the next one's finished. So I mean, essentially you could be looking at 125 years. He's looking at a minimum of 25 years now, and he has pled to this. So I'm guessing the case against him was pretty strong. I'm sad about it. I mean, it's sad, it's disappointing for all of us. But yeah, he is not in an enviable position.
No. And, personally, I support the death penalty for these types of crimes as well, because those children that he was watching and purchasing were being raped. So essentially, even if he wasn't engaged in the actual act, he's still engaging in the act. But, that's me personally.
I can't even imagine where preferences like this even come from. I mean, I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine it.
Yeah, it's so sad. But so some of the other things that we were talking about, I know that we've talked about. I want to come back to small business. I know personally, I had a couple people that were misinformed that said you don't care about small business, and I was like, how does he not care about small business? He has his own small business, and actually you used to work and helping people fight against insurance companies when they were in accidents, and these people weren't able to go to work because of injuries.
I tell people, like, the job satisfaction rate among lawyers is very low. I am 2 standard deviations to the right of the median on job satisfaction. I absolutely love being a lawyer. I've always loved being a lawyer. I think being a lawyer is the greatest thing anybody could ever be. I was always so proud to practice law, and I always tried to use it to help people. It's it's an honor. It's a sacred honor, and the legal profession should be there to help people. I tell you a couple of things that I really like about being a lawyer is you catch people at their lowest, and that's when you can speak into their lives. You catch people that are in trouble, and maybe they really didn't do it. You catch people that are injured or hurt, and someone else is at fault, but the insurance companies or the powers that be are jerking them around. That's something that everybody has to consider. I know a lot of Republicans are in favor of tort reform, and I understand tort reform. I also understand that there is the other side of it, that sometimes the insurance companies bring some of their woes upon themselves. There's two sides to that story. I hope that doesn't make anybody mad at me for saying that, but I practiced in personal injury for 10 years, and I can tell you there are two sides to that story. But no, I love being a lawyer. I love helping people. There's a new, I noticed the new sort of contrived, I'd call it a false dilemma, is the lawyer legislator. Some people have said, oh my gosh, you'll be a lawyer legislator. Well, okay, I guess I will be. I'm a lawyer. If I become a legislator, I will necessarily be a lawyer legislator. It's not being a lawyer that's creating corruption. It's the opportunities to be corrupt, and the fact that people that don't have a moral grounding are looking and taking advantage of those opportunities to be corrupt. Lawyers generally hold themselves to a much higher standard of ethics than almost any other profession. And you always hear about the bad eggs. You always hear about the lawyers that break the rules. Most lawyers play by the rules. Most lawyers walk the walk and talk the talk. All the ones that I knew did. When I was at George Sink Injury Lawyers, a lot of people make fun of George Sink, dial all nines, whatever. I can tell you, every one of those, some of those guys over there agreed with me politically on religious grounds. Some of them didn't. Okay, but every one of those guys that I met over there that I worked with for 10 years were moral, ethical, walking it out, doing the right thing. Every one of them, from Big George all the way down the line, every lawyer in that organization, very ethical, very solid. And I would never say anything different about them. So yeah, that's I love being a lawyer. I try to do the right thing. I love speaking to people. I love helping people. And I'll go ahead and say in your podcast, my lawyer phone number is 843-225-3600. 843-225-3600. If you have a legal problem and you want to talk to someone that will listen to you and hear you out and do everything I can to help you, dial that number 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, if I'm asleep, I'm probably not going to answer. But if you call me at 3 a.m. and I happen to be awake at 3 a.m., I will pick up the phone and I will talk to you and I will listen to you. And I do that because I consider that not only a sacred duty, but a sacred honor, a sacred privilege to practice law and to help people. All consultations, all of my initial consultations are free, period, end of story. Doesn't matter what it is. All of my consultations are 100% confidential, period, end of story. And I'm happy to help anybody, anytime, in any way I can.
That's incredible. And I know that personally, because I know I've talked to you just asking, questions in general, but also I know I've sent some, individuals your direction. And I think that people get upset about lawyer legislators because in our state, you would be not one of these people, but there by and large have been the lawyer legislators in the South Carolina State House that have elected their family members, like your, soon to be former state house representative got his wife and brother in as judges because the South Carolina State House over history has elected, they're in charge of electing our judges. And so that's why we have to have judicial reform, obviously.
I would be in favor of moving those elections to public elections. The states where judges are publicly elected by their constituents have a much better result than some of what we're getting in South Carolina. There is nepotism here. There are. I don't like to criticize anybody in the legal profession, but obviously there are problems. I mean, I think we all know that. I would be in favor of moving those to general elections. That probably won't make me many friends among some of the legislators. Keep in mind, I think it was 20 of the 56 people that signed the Declaration of Independence were lawyers. The Constitution was drafted by 3 lawyers. The Bill of Rights was drafted by one of those 3 lawyers. There were lawyers at the Alamo. The guy who wrote the Star Spangled Banner, witnessing the battle at Fort McKinley, was a lawyer. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer. He was there because he was a lawyer. He was trying to help his client. The British grabbed him and threw him in jail, and he stood in his cell at night watching the battle over the ramparts and wrote the poem Star Spangled Banner, which was subsequently put to the music of God Save the Queen. That's where we got our national anthem, from a lawyer. So the lawyer legislature thing, I believe it's a false dilemma. Do we need to address whatever corruption is there? Absolutely. Is the corruption there because of lawyers? It's non sequitur. I hope nobody's offended by that, but
I just think that there's so many that have taken advantage of the system that are in office to help their clients in court, like Chris Murphy did with some of his clients. And I've already shared those in the past, which this race, he's not in this race, so we don't have to go into that. But I think that's where that stigma has come from, is that these people have gotten away with it. That's why we need people like you in there to balance these things out. So I want to talk about.
I don't know, Chris. He seems like a nice guy. I wish him well. I've just met my opponents on the Republican side. I think they're both pretty good guys. I like them both. I wish them both the best of luck. Obviously, I think I'm the best guy for the job. Otherwise, I would drop out and endorse one of them. But yeah, I think I can go to Columbia and bring to District 98 the things we're looking for. Fix these roads, improve our education, and there are so many other things that can be done.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about fiscal responsibility. One thing I will say, because we've just got about 10 minutes left, unfortunately, you can always come back. I will say the establishment has put someone in. And in the Post and Courier, it was obvious the race was only between 2 of you, not the previous one that ran against Chris Murphy, but this other one. And we don't mention their names, but it's pretty easy to figure it out. And I actually thought the article complimented you, because it was like,
believe me, that was not their intention. Okay, the Post and Courier.
Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what their intention was.
The Post and Courier's got my picture on a dartboard down there somewhere. Believe me, the Post and Courier does not like me. And I read the article and I was like, this actually makes me look pretty good.
Maybe that guy actually is. Maybe that guy's actually Team David. But the interesting thing is that the third candidate, there's South Carolina Freedom Caucus candidate. They've made you out to be. And then they've got the establishment candidate. But what's interesting is the third candidate, they're like, he's lost poorly the last 2 times. And so that actually turned out to be a bad thing for him. But I want to switch over.
I think they're both good guys. I have not made any commitments to align myself with any caucus. I have made my commitment to align myself with Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, first and foremost, without compromise. Right-wing principles, the Constitution of our federal government, the Constitution of our state. And I'm going to align myself with this crazy, wacky, zany superpower called common sense.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to go up there. I tell people I'm going to bring the light and I'm going to bring the fight. I know one of the objections that I've run into every now and then for being like a Christian candidate is they say, well, so many of the Christian guys are kind of soft, and they're happy guys, but they kind of go along to get along, and they're too gentle and all that kind of stuff. Let me tell you people something. That is not the biblical definition of what a Christian is supposed to be. The happy, I don't know what to call him, the happy go along guy. That's not that guy. You won't find that guy in the Bible. Paul was not a happy go along guy. Moses was not a happy go along guy. King David was not a happy go along guy. Jesus Christ was not a happy go along guy. I tell people, I'm going to bring the light. Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm going to bring the light, and I'm going to bring the fight. Count on it.
Amen. Well, so we just have a little bit of time left, and I know you're all about limited government, reducing our spending. How do you feel about eliminating the state income tax?
I'd love to eliminate the state income tax. Do it like Tennessee does. Do it like Florida does, where they sort of they do a sales tax kind of thing to make up any shortfall. But I would like to see the state income tax eliminated in South Carolina. I would like to see property taxes, at least on seniors. There's got to be a certain age, and you've been in your house a certain number of years. You no longer have to pay rent to the government to live in your house as you're aging and as your Social Security check is not stretching as far as it used to. And you got to worry about this massive property tax payment on a house that you've lived in a long time. So it's appreciated in value because you've been stable and productive. And seniors should get relief from property tax and the state income tax. We are taxed higher than any state in the union. I mean, everybody knows this is common knowledge. South Carolina is, if we're not the very highest, we're right up there. And it's too much. And what are they doing with the money? I mean, they're not using it to fix the roads. DOT is sitting on 1.8 billion with a B dollars, and they're not fixing our roads. Where's that money going?
Yeah, and the interesting thing is DeSantis down in Florida is talking about eliminating property taxes altogether. You just pay for it once, because then you really don't owe your land. You don't own your land. It's like
it's paying rent to the government.
Taxation without representation is theft, and so it's like we're being we're taxed on everything. We're taxed on every single thing multiple times, and it's like, no, we shouldn't be doing this. So I would love.
Obviously, a guy that would want to eliminate property tax on seniors would go along with eliminating property tax, period. I'd be happy to do it. If I could get it for seniors, I'd call that a victory. If I could get it for everybody, oh, happy day.
So I mean, we've covered a lot of things. I just wanted people to get to know you as who you are and, kind of basically squash these rumors about you being a career politician.
I'm not. I saw some stuff on Facebook this morning from a place that I love. This great small business in Charleston that all of my friends go to and everybody loves. And I saw something. I was like, oh, a bunch of people texted me. Look at this. This is what. So that's okay. People haven't gotten to know me yet. When you get to know me. When you get to know me, you'll either love me or you'll hate me, but more than likely you'll like me pretty good. And it's okay. We're all trying to figure this out. You and I both know the Republican Party is divided right now. I've got a lot of J6 friends, Washington State, in Virginia, in North Carolina, in Georgia, in various places across the country that are doing what I'm doing. They're standing up, they're getting involved in local politics, and they're telling me the same story. That their Republican Party is just as divided as we are. I'm not divided. I am who I am. If you will work with me, I don't care what label you're on. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If there's a Democrat out there that says, Johnston, you're right, we need to put an apprenticeship program in these schools and help our kids get ahead, I'm going to go, thank you. Let's put something together. I'm willing to work with everybody. I'm not mad at anybody. And that's not some slimy diplomatic BS thing to say. I mean it. I'll work with whoever will work with me. And Dorchester County Republicans that I've met so far, those one might call establishment, and those one that might call more newer MAGA type Republicans, Freedom Caucus, whatever you want to call them. I've found every one of them to be intelligent, caring, focused, determined, committed. People with strong opinions, people with strong feelings about freedom and liberty and dignity. What are we? We're going to crash. We're brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters fight. Okay, but sooner or later we need to quit fighting and all get on the same side and start.
Yeah.
What is it you're always saying? Kick some taillights. That's your expression.
I do say that.
The Republican brothers and sisters need to finish our argument and then lock arms and kick taillights, to borrow a Lynzism. So yeah, that's what I stand for.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today. Go to David's website where it actually says "Step in and speak out." I love that. District DIST 98.com.
Yeah, DIST98.com. DIST98.com.
Go there and check it out, and subscribe. Make a donation. Every dollar counts. My first donation when I ran for Congress was $1 reoccurring every month, and that to me says someone bought into the vision, and we celebrated that. That's a big deal. So thank you so much, David, for tuning in.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Lynz.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Super excited about this race. I'm urging those that are in this race to get behind David running unopposed. He is the candidate we need in South Carolina District 98. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions regarding what I'm doing, what I'm up to, I'll be traveling a little bit towards the end of the year and then after the beginning of the year. But if you would like for me to come and speak, happy to do that. Go to my website, lynz.ai. Thank you so much. I'll look forward to seeing you guys next Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.